The crystal wine glasses clinked as my sister Emma raised her hand, drawing everyone's attention like she always did. Big news, everyone. Her perfect smile gleamed as she looked around our parents' mahogany dining table. I just got called for an interview at Sterling Enterprises. My mother gasped in delight, nearly dropping her fork. Sterling Enterprises? The biggest tech company in the city? The very same, Emma preened, tossing her expertly highlighted hair. Senior Marketing Director position. They reached out to me specifically. Of course they had. Everything came easily to Emma. Perfect grades without studying. Dream jobs without trying. A constant stream of success that our parents never tired of celebrating. I sat quietly, pushing my food around my plate, trying to become invisible. But in this family, I was never allowed to fade into the background for long. Not when they needed someone to compare Emma to. Isn't that wonderful? My mother gushed. Now that's a real career path. She turned to me, her smile turning sharp. You should ask Emma for advice, Sarah. Maybe she can help you find something better. Better than what I was doing now, she meant. Better than the consulting work that they all dismissed as glorified freelancing. Better than building my own company from scratch, because apparently being your own boss wasn't as impressive as having one. I'm doing fine, Mom, I said quietly, but Emma was already laughing. Oh, please, you can't even get a real job, she smirked. How long are you going to pretend that your little consulting thing is an actual career? My father set down his wine glass. Emma has a point, Sarah. You're 32. It's time to get serious about your future. I gripped my fork tighter, thinking about the contracts sitting on my desk at home, the acquisition deals I was negotiating, the empire I had built while they were all busy undermining me. My business is doing well, I started to explain, but Emma cut me off. Business? Please. You work from your apartment and barely make enough to pay rent. Meanwhile, I'm about to be a senior director at Sterling. She turned to our parents. Did I mention the salary? Base pay is $250,000 plus bonuses. My mother nearly swooned. My father beamed with pride. I thought about my company's latest quarterly earnings report and had to suppress a laugh. When's the interview? I asked, keeping my voice neutral. Monday morning, Emma replied smugly. Not that it matters. The position is practically mine already. The CEO specifically requested to interview me personally. I bet they did, I thought, remembering the stack of resumes on my desk. Among them, Emma's application, forwarded to me by HR with a note. Another entitled candidate with an inflated ego. Your call, boss. Well, good luck, I said, standing up. I should get going. Early meeting tomorrow. Emma snickered. What? Did someone finally agree to buy something from you? Sarah. My mother sighed. When are you going to stop this ridiculous independent phase? Your father could have gotten you a proper position years ago. I thought about the nameplate on my office door. The one that reads Sarah Mitchell, CEO, Sterling Enterprises. The one Emma would see tomorrow morning. You're right, Mom, I said, gathering my things. Maybe it is time for a change. They probably thought I was finally admitting defeat. They had no idea what was coming. As I drove home to my penthouse apartment, not that they knew I could afford one, I thought about how we got here. How their constant dismissal had driven me to build something bigger than they could imagine. It started 10 years ago when I graduated with my MBA. Emma was the star of the family then too, climbing the corporate ladder with her natural talent, while I quietly studied market trends and business strategies. When I told them I was starting my own consulting firm, they laughed. When I landed my first major client, they dismissed it as luck. When I started buying up struggling companies and turning them around, they didn't even notice. 5 years ago, I made my biggest move yet. acquiring Sterling Enterprises through a complex series of shell companies and investment firms. The previous CEO was ready to retire, and I had spent years preparing for this moment. I changed my professional name to Sarah Mitchell, my mother's maiden name, knowing my family never paid enough attention to business news to make the connection. I rebuilt Sterling from the ground up, transforming it into the tech giant it is today. And through it all, my family remained blissfully unaware, too busy praising Emma's minor achievements to notice that their unsuccessful daughter was now one of the most powerful CEOs in the city. My phone buzzed as I pulled into my building's private garage. A text from Emma. "You should really come to the Sterling building sometime. See what a real company looks like. I'll give you a tour after I get the job." I smiled, thinking of my corner office on the top floor, the one with the view of the entire city, the one Emma had been dreaming about in her application letter. Tomorrow was going to be interesting. In my apartment, I reviewed Emma's resume one more time. It was impressive on paper. Good education, steady career progression, solid references. But I had done my research. I knew about the projects she had taken credit for, but barely contributed to. The subordinates she had thrown under the bus, the corners she had cut. Emma had always been good at presenting the perfect image. Tomorrow, she would learn that image isn't everything. My phone buzzed again. This time it was my mother. "Darling, I know you're probably feeling discouraged seeing Emma's success. Why don't you let your father make some calls? It's not too late to start a proper career." I set the phone down without responding and walked to my home office. The wall was covered in business magazines featuring Sterling's remarkable turnaround. Tech's most innovative CEO, one headline read, "Sarah Mitchell, the unseen power player revolutionizing the industry," declared another. My family had spent years telling me I wasn't good enough. Tomorrow, they would learn just how wrong they were. I sat at my desk and opened my laptop, typing out an email to HR. "Please ensure Ms. Emma Carter's interview is scheduled in my office at 9 a.m. sharp. And make sure she waits in the lobby for at least 30 minutes before being brought up." A small petty detail, perhaps, but after years of enduring her condescension, I thought I deserved a little dramatic flair. I spent the rest of the evening reviewing company reports and finalizing acquisition plans, just like any other Sunday night. But this Sunday felt different. Tomorrow, everything would change. As I got ready for bed, I caught my reflection in the bathroom mirror. I looked nothing like the timid daughter my family still saw me as. My suits were tailored now, my presence commanding. I had grown into my power while they weren't watching. Tomorrow, they would finally see me. And I couldn't wait for the show to begin. Monday morning arrived with a sense of delicious anticipation. I stood in my private elevator, ascending to the top floor of Sterling Enterprises, watching the city wake up through the glass walls. My Armani suit was immaculate, my heels clicking authoritatively on the marble floor as I stepped out. "Good morning, Ms. Mitchell," my executive assistant Diana greeted me with a knowing smile. "Your 9 a.m. appointment has arrived early." She's been waiting in the lobby for 20 minutes, insisting that the CEO specifically requested her presence. I checked my watch. 8:45 a.m. Let her wait another 10 minutes. How's she handling it? Diana's eyes twinkled. She's demanded coffee 3 times, name-dropped several executives she claims to know, and told a receptionist that her sister is a nobody who can't even get a proper job. I smiled, setting my briefcase on my desk. Perfect. Has she noticed any of the magazine covers? No, Diana smirked. She's too busy telling everyone within earshot about her marketing expertise to look around. Typical Emma. So focused on promoting herself that she missed the obvious. The lobby walls were lined with press coverage of Sterling's transformation under my leadership. My photo was literally hanging above the reception desk, but Emma would never notice. She never had. Her resume listed some impressive achievements at her current company, Diana noted, arranging folders on my desk. I took the liberty of fact-checking them. And half are exaggerated, a third are outright lies, and the rest were group projects where she took sole credit. I nodded, unsurprised. Just like high school. Remember when she won that science fair? The project you actually built while she was at cheerleading practice. The very same. I sat down behind my desk, adjusting my nameplate slightly. Send her up at 9 a.m. exactly. And Diana? Make sure the security team is recording the lobby and elevator cameras. I want to preserve this moment. At precisely 9 a.m., my office phone buzzed. Ms. Carter is here for her interview, Diana announced formally. Send her in. The door opened, and Emma strode in like she already owned the place. She wore an expensive but slightly too flashy suit, her confidence bordering on arrogance. Then she saw me sitting behind the CEO's desk. The color drained from her face. Sarah? She stammered, frozen in the doorway. What? What are you doing here? Good morning, Emma, I said pleasantly. Please take a seat. We have a lot to discuss about your application for the Senior Marketing Director position. She didn't move, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. But I'm supposed to meet with Sarah Mitchell, the CEO. I smiled, gesturing to my nameplate. That would be me. Sarah Mitchell, formerly Sarah Carter. Though I'm not surprised you didn't make the connection. You never did pay attention to anything I did. Emma sank into the chair across from me, her perfect composure cracking. This is impossible. You're just a consultant. You work from your apartment. Actually, I leaned back in my chair, enjoying this moment. I own this building, and several others. Sterling Enterprises has been my company for the past 5 years. I pulled out her resume. Now, shall we discuss your application? I have some questions about these achievements you've listed. You can't be serious, Emma whispered, her voice shaking. You can't be the CEO. You're nobody. That's what you all thought, isn't it? I kept my voice calm, professional. Poor Sarah. Can't even get a real job. Just a nobody working from her apartment. Tell me, Emma, did you ever once ask what kind of consulting I did? What companies I worked with? Or were you too busy bragging about your own mediocre accomplishments? She flinched. I didn't. No, you didn't. I agreed. None of you did. You were all too convinced of my failure to notice my success. Too busy mocking my choices to see where they were leading. I opened her file. Now, about this claim that you single-handedly increased your department's revenue by 200% last year. That's accurate, she stuttered, but I could see the panic in her eyes. Interesting. I pulled out another document. Because I have here the annual report from your company. The entire marketing department only saw a 30% increase. And according to your former colleagues, that was primarily due to a campaign developed by your junior team. The one you rejected initially but took credit for after it succeeded. Emma's face went from pale to red. You've been investigating me? I investigate all potential senior executives thoroughly. We have very high standards at Sterling. I smiled. Standards that value actual achievement over self-promotion. Just then my phone buzzed. Diana's voice came through the speaker. Ms. Mitchell, your parents are in the lobby, demanding to see you. They're quite insistent. Of course they were. Emma had probably texted them the moment she saw me. Send them up, I said calmly. I think it's time for a family meeting. Emma shifted nervously in her chair. Sarah, look, about last night. About all the things I've said. Save it. I cut her off. I'm not interested in apologies motivated by fear. I spent years listening to you undermine and belittle me. Now you get to sit there and learn exactly who your unsuccessful sister really is. The door burst open. My parents stormed in, their faces a mix of confusion and anger. "Sarah," my mother exclaimed. "What is the meaning of this? What are you doing in the CEO's office?" "Hello, Mother," I replied coolly. "I was just reviewing Emma's job application. Would you like to join us?" We were discussing the importance of honesty in professional achievements. My father's face reddened. "Stop this nonsense immediately. You're embarrassing yourself and your sister." I stood up slowly, letting my authority fill the room. "No, Dad. For once in your life, you're going to listen to me. All of you are." I pressed a button on my desk, and the wall of windows behind me transformed into a screen, displaying Sterling's financial growth under my leadership. "Welcome to my company, the one you've been hearing about at your country club, the one Emma's been desperate to work for, the one that's been making headlines while you were all too busy dismissing me to notice." They stared at the numbers, the achievements, the empire I had built while they weren't watching. "Now," I said, sitting back down, "let's talk about what really makes someone successful in business. Shall we begin with integrity, or should we start with actual competence?" The color drained from Emma's face as she realized this interview was about to become very, very uncomfortable, and we were just getting started. The silence in my office was deafening as my family stared at the financial projections on the screen. 10 years of growth, billions in acquisitions, my photo on the cover of Forbes, Fortune, and Business Weekly. This is all yours," my mother whispered, sinking into one of the leather chairs. "Every bit of it," I confirmed, standing to walk around my desk. "The consulting business you mocked? That was just the beginning. While Emma was bragging about her mid-level marketing positions, I was buying and transforming struggling companies. While you were lamenting my lack of a real job, I was building an empire." My father, always quick to anger, found his voice first. "Why didn't you tell us? Why keep this secret?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Tell you? Like I tried to tell you about my first major client, or my first successful company turnaround, or any of my achievements that you dismissed because they didn't fit your narrow definition of success." Emma shifted uncomfortably in her chair. "Sarah, if we had known." "That's exactly the point." I cut her off. "You only care now because of what I've built, not who I am. You're only interested because of the power and money, not because you're proud of what I've accomplished." I pressed another button on my desk, and security footage from last night's dinner appeared on the screen. Emma's mocking voice filled the room. "Can't even get a real job." "Stop," Emma pleaded, her face flushing. "We get it." "Do you?" I turned to face her directly. "Because I've been watching you build your career on exaggerations and stolen credit. I've talked to your former colleagues, your supposed references. I know exactly how you've gotten every position you've ever held." My mother stood up, smoothing her designer dress nervously. "Surely we can work something out. We're family, after all." "Family?" I picked up Emma's resume. Like when Emma took credit for my science project in high school, or when she told her college friends I was a dropout because I started my own business instead of following the corporate path. That kind of family. I was young, Emma protested weakly. "We all make mistakes." "Yes, we do," I agreed. "And now you get to face the consequences of yours." "Diana?" My assistant entered with a thick folder. "The investigation results you requested, Ms. Mitchell." "Thank you." I opened the folder and began reading. Falsified achievements, stolen ideas, workplace bullying complaints, I looked up at Emma. Did you really think none of this would come out during our background check? Emma's face went pale. Those accusations were never proven. Because you had Daddy's lawyers shut down every investigation, I finished for her. But Sterling takes corporate integrity very seriously. We thoroughly vet all potential executives. My father stepped forward, his business negotiation face on. Now, Sarah, surely we can discuss this privately, as a family. You lost that right last night, I replied calmly. When you sat there and let Emma mock me. When you suggested I needed your help to find a real job. When you once again made it clear that nothing I did would ever be good enough. I pressed another button on my desk. The office door opened, and Harold Bennett, my chief legal officer, entered. Harold, please explain to my family the consequences of submitting fraudulent information on a Sterling Enterprises job application. Harold adjusted his glasses. Falsifying credentials and experience on an executive-level application is grounds for immediate rejection and potential legal action, especially if previous employers wish to pursue damages for defamation or intellectual property theft. Emma's composure cracked completely. You wouldn't. You can't. Can't what? I asked softly. Protect my company from someone with a proven history of dishonesty? Enforce our ethical standards? Or are you suggesting I should give you special treatment because we're family? Sarah, please, my mother begged. Think about what this would do to our reputation. Like you thought about mine. All those years of snide comments and dismissive attitudes. I shook my head. No, Mother. Emma's application is rejected. Furthermore, I'm forwarding our findings to her current employer. They should know exactly who they're trusting with their corporate image. Emma burst into tears, but they weren't the calculated sobs she usually used to get her way. These were real, the tears of someone finally facing consequences. As for you two, I turned to my parents. I suggest you take a long, hard look at how you've treated both your daughters. One you praised endlessly despite her dishonesty. The other you dismissed despite her integrity and success. My father's face darkened. You're enjoying this, aren't you? Humiliating your family? No, Dad. I'm not enjoying this at all. I'm doing what you should have done years ago, holding people accountable for their actions. I walked to the window, looking out at the city I now partly owned. You know what the worst part is? If any of you had shown even a moment of genuine interest in my work, you would have known about all this. My name, my full name, has been in the business news for years. But you were all too convinced of my failure to notice my success. I turned back to them. Now I have a board meeting to prepare for. Harold will escort you out. Emma, you'll receive official notification of our decision in writing. I suggest you use this as an opportunity for self-reflection. Sarah, my mother tried one last time. We can still be a family. We can work through this. I sat back down at my desk, picking up a report. We'll always be related, Mother. But family? That requires respect, support, and love. None of which you've shown me. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a company to run. They left in silence, Emma's tears still falling, my parents' pride in shambles. As the door closed behind them, Diana entered with a cup of coffee. Are you okay? She asked softly. I took a deep breath, looking at the family photo I kept in my drawer. Not of my parents or Emma, but of my grandfather, the only one who had believed in me from the start. You know what, Diana? I am. For the first time in years, I really am. Over the next few months, the family dynamics shifted dramatically. Emma's current employer launched an investigation into her past achievements, leading to her eventual resignation. My parents stopped appearing in society pages, their social standing diminished by the revelation that they had dismissed their successful daughter while enabling their dishonest one. I focused on my work, continuing to build Sterling into an even stronger company. The business world buzzed with the story once it got out. The secret CEO who had hidden her success from her unsupportive family. It became a symbol of quiet determination triumphing over loud mediocrity. 6 months later, I received a letter from Emma. Not an email or text, but a handwritten letter of apology. For the first time in her life, she had been forced to work her way up from an entry-level position, no family connections to rely on. She wrote that she finally understood the value of genuine achievement. My parents took longer to come around, but eventually, my mother sent a similar letter, acknowledging their failures and asking for a chance to really know me, not as the daughter they had dismissed, but as the woman I had become. I kept both letters in my desk, next to my grandfather's photo, not because I was ready to forgive, but because they reminded me of an important truth. Success isn't about proving others wrong. It's about proving yourself right. 1 year to the day after that fateful interview, I sat in my office reviewing quarterly reports. Diana entered with the latest business magazine. The cover story: Sterling CEO Sarah Mitchell, The Power of Quiet Success. The article didn't mention my family drama or Emma's failed interview. It focused on what really mattered: the company I had built, the innovations we had created, the changes we had made in the industry. Because in the end, that's what real success looks like. Not bragging at family dinners or inflating achievements, but building something meaningful, something lasting. They had called me worthless at family dinner. Now I was their boss, their superior, their example of what true success looks like. And that was worth more than any revenge could ever be.